Broad Street Review podcast is an extension of Broad Street Review, Philly's home for arts, culture, and conversation, an online arts and culture journal covering the greater Philadelphia area. I'm your host, Darnell Radford.
Today on the podcast, Phyllis Johnson drops in to talk about the Bristol Riverside Theater production of Fires in the Mirror by Anna Deavere Smith. This will be the first production in their newly renovated theater. Here is my interview with Phyllis Johnson for Fires in the Mirror. And welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Darnell Radford, and today I'm in the virtual studio to talk about Bristol Riverside Theater's production, Fires in the Mirror by Anna Deavere Smith. And I am here with the performer of this piece for Bristol Riverside Theater, Phyllis Johnson. Phyllis, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
So I was just sharing space with the artistic leaders of Bristol, and it's exciting that this piece will be the first production in the newly renovated theater.
It is really exciting. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. They're still putting the finishing touches on it. The place smells like a sparkling new car
Nice.
slash theater shop.
I was looking at the website and the social channels, and I said they're keeping this a secret. They want us to physically be in that space to see all the wonderful work they've done. And well played. We're getting tickets.
It's really beautiful. So
Yeah.
I touched the carpets a little bit. I was like, ooh, it's right off the shelf.
Fun. Welcome to the podcast. This is your first time being here.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to getting to know you. So let's get started and tell us about Phyllis.
Well, gosh, there's so many facets to me. I'm an actress. I'm a mom. I'm a twin.
Ooh.
I guess those are the main. I'm a world traveler. Those are the big strokes, I guess.
Great.
The broad strokes.
And do you currently reside in New York? Are you here? in Philly?
Yes, I live in Brooklyn.
Okay.
That's the stomping grounds, and but I love to travel, so that I do a good amount of that as well.
Cool. And so how did you end up at Bristol Riverside Theater?
Well, I saw an audition for this play, and I love this play, and it's actually been something I've wanted to do since I started acting in college. I went to Wesleyan University, where incidentally Anna Deavere Smith is in. She's doing residency there right now.
Cool.
So I was in a postmodern performance class, and I was introduced to this piece. And it was one of the reasons I thought when I was applying to grad school that I thought I want to do American stories. I had an opportunity to study with a great acting school in France, and I decided to stay in the States and apply to grad school here because I thought I really want to tell American stories. This is the kind of thing I love to do, tell real people's lives and stories. And so it's a dream come true. So I saw the script and that they were going to do it, and I just asked my agent, I said, "Can I do it? What do you think?"
Nice. So you experienced it first in college?
Well, it was a class on postmodern performance, and Anna Deavere Smith was really just starting to. This had come out, and she was her signature style of theater was taking off and really starting to get noticed, and that, along with a lot of other theater makers of the time, were changing the sort of the face of theater. Theater had been pretty homogenous, I think, and folks that representation as well as thematically, and this was sort of a fresh new thing at the time, documentary style theater and interview theater and someone playing many different characters. And, at the time the argument was, or conversation was all about, let's see, what do they call it? When it was like non-traditional casting, I think was the word that they called it, when they were starting to be change around gender and race.
Yeah.
And this blew that out of the water. This really changed the narrative completely. So I was very excited by it.
Cool. And so you go through the process and you're cast in the show. What was it like to enter the space for the first time? Were you off book? Were you very familiar with the piece, or you just had an understanding and was ready to get in?
Well, we didn't have enough time, in my opinion, to create, theater in Europe. And, long ago, people would really take their time to create theatrical pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's very typical that you've got 2 or 3 weeks of rehearsal and then previews, and then you run, and that's the length of the contract. So I came in having already worked a lot on memorization, not completely off book, but very familiar with the script. I just felt like it was going to make me freer in the room.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad I did that because, even now we're sort of halfway through the rehearsal process, and I'm, it's a heavy lift. There's no doubt, but there's so much joy. It's so much joy to do this. So
yeah. So carrying the interest of the work of Anna Deavere Smith and having this kind of in your mind space before, what sort of conversations came up in the room? Having this familial knowledge of the space, like thinking about that first table read, like for our listeners who are not fortunate to be a part of a table read, it's like a complete unpacking with the whole production team and everything. And then when you get in that space, there's a whole lot of like, okay, how did that feel, everybody? What are you thinking about that? So what were your thoughts in the room with the whole team?
Well, it's interesting. I've 2 things. One is you're never, I heard someone say once that when you do the table read and it's amazing, everyone's like, yay. And then you spend the entire time that you're in rehearsal getting back to what happened at the table. And I also, this is the first time I've ever done a show where I was the only person. There are other actors. Everyone, we start when you start, you end when you end. People are like, do you want to take a break? So we just did it. We just plowed through beginning to end. And, it's a really powerful show. There's a lot of funny in there. There's definitely a lot of drama because it's such a, impactful moment to talk about. And it's definitely, you feel very full when you come out. You feel very full of the event and the moment. It's very much a period piece. You very much hear the 90s, the early 90s in it. And then at the same time, it's incredibly relevant. It's very much similar to the times we're in right now. So it's really exciting. It's really, really exciting.
Yeah. I always find it to be very exciting when a piece has been explored by the organization in advance, as we're season planning. This may have been something that they had thought about doing for many years. And then when it gets there, it's so timely.
Yeah.
And I know that that's the work that the audience is doing, relating it to something current.
Yeah.
But I just think it's uncanny that theater can do that. It doesn't matter when this was placed. We can still, escape in that moment, but then come into the world and say, this is just like that moment.
Yeah. And it's really funny. I mean, I do think the artistic directors of the theater definitely, I don't know what their guiding light is, but they definitely chose well. This is a piece that, Amy Kaiser was saying, the director was saying that they were trying to figure out a play that was going to be good at this time, since they knew that the elections would have just happened. People might be feeling a type of way, one way or the other. And since this area, from what they tell me, seems to be very mixed, they wanted something that was going to be able to reach out to everyone.
Yeah.
And have a sort of a community conversation, because, that's really what I think the root of democracy is, right? We are since it's a democracy, we're all implicated. Everyone is ultimately required to, as they participate or not, be the leader of the direction of the country, of the community. And this is the kind of, so communication in community is really the only way that kind of sort of community can be educated on everyone's feelings. And I think that this is really the kind of space. Theater is the kind of tool that, the telephones are so isolating, screens are so isolating. People hardly even watch things together anymore. If it's on a screen, you can pause it, you can get up and go get some popcorn or answer a phone call or get distracted by an email mid story. And when it's theater, that's not possible. It is a collective conversation. And so I think that's one of the amazing things about theater, and this piece is so timely and perfect. And then there's that thing that with theater, and it's really only with theater, you can write the play, you can pull the actors in, and the designers can put their touch on it, and you guys create a story. But it doesn't really turn on until the audience is there.
Yeah.
They are that last ingredient that makes the event. So that's all happening here, and it's pretty exciting. There's no doubt.
Yes. When we were talking about the relevance and how this time, this was going to be a production presented after the election, and would it hit? Would it be a good place to put it? There's been a lot of productions this season that were thinking that. They were thinking far in advance about, like, okay, it's going to be election. If we choose this piece, perhaps the optimism and the way things were going made us feel one thing. And then as soon as the piece, is in development, in its rehearsal process, the results come. I'm thinking about here in our community, Interact Theater Company downtown.
Who I've worked with before.
Yeah, produced a show called Moreno by Praveen Wilkins. And that was a show that it could have gone either way. If the election went with the Democrats, we would have processed that piece in a totally different way than we did, when the outcome, that show opened the week of the election.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And so, again, speaking to the timeliness of theater, and I think like our listeners, I feel like everybody in the world needs to understand that theater makers have their finger on the pulse. They are thinking about why something matters right now, why it's relevant, and why are we going to put a whole team and all of our efforts behind this piece right now.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something. I mean, we get it. Of course we get it. But I don't think society as a whole appreciates that art is so timely and it speaks to the moment in the moment.
Well, I think that you're right. Hopefully what's happening is there's like the umbrella of art in general, right? So some people, maybe it's not theater for them. Other people, it's painting. Some people, it's fashion. Some people, it's writing or reading books. Some people, it's consuming and criticizing. Maybe that's some people, it's teaching. Whatever it is that people see is, more than pedestrian. It's the artistic expression. Because I think that's a very healthy outlet for a healthy individual and community. I agree. I think theater could use more love and attention. But I do think that, maybe I'll just put it out in the universe and hope and predict. I think that humans will begin to be tired of the drain that screens and the content in them gives us. I don't mean to put it down. I think it's great.
Yeah.
But I do think that, the more our bodies are sedentary, the more disconnected with our lives we become. And I think that it's not a good direction, right, for humans to go. I think that, Seth Rosen at Interact, I've done 2 projects there, and he really wants to challenge his community. You can tell that the people support that theater. Maybe they don't agree with what he's necessarily with what he's putting on there, but they know he's trying to shake their tree. He's trying to strengthen their bodies, right? Strengthen their souls and their characters. And that is what theater does if we allow it to challenge us. And I also think that part of the reason why maybe it's not so sort of prevalent, not everybody gets it, is that, theater can't exist if it's not relevant, right? Irrelevant theater, it doesn't last. It's like a bad restaurant. If they serve bad food, nobody gonna come.
Very true.
It's got to offer something. Yeah.
Yeah, when you're talking about people will get fatigued by all these screens, I was thinking about earlier today. I was in a meeting at the Wilma, actually, and I was talking about how many years ago I what do they call it? Well, I unplugged from cable, right?
Yeah.
I came home one day and I said, I'm watching this for maybe a few hours at the end of the night just to unwind. And then on the weekend, if I don't go anywhere, I'm just going to park in front of it. I'm like, I don't need this. And then I started going to more theater, and I do get the opportunity to sit in a lot of theaters, and so that
awesome.
became my replacement. And now I can't see a world without it. I'm just like, I need that window of time. Like prime time is also prime time for theater. I could sit in the theater and engage with a live act, and then the people around me, we can all respond in community together, or I can just sit and watch a rerun or sit and watch something that's pre-recorded and try to find a way to say that it's pointed right now,
I was going to say that might conjure up a nostalgia, but even seeing a show, let's say a second or third time, something about being in community with other people.
Yeah.
I think it's really necessary.
Absolutely. We should all be in community. Everyone, keep that for you, for yourselves for 2025. So now that we've laid that foundation, tell us about Fires in the Mirror.
Well, it's a really exciting show. It's just basically about the event that happened in 1991, August of 1991, where a motorcade, one of the cars in a motorcade ran a red light and hit a little boy and his sister that were playing on the corner. And it was two different communities. The Hasidic Jewish community had the motorcade, and the kids were Guyanese, and the African American and Caribbean communities had, for at least 20 years, been at odds with the growing Hasidic community. This is in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. And this accident set off a powder keg that was really ready to blow already between these two communities. And I think, the grand story is that they really had been neglected by the larger organizational powers. So there was a lot of need and a lot of maybe jealousy over resources. And riots ensued. There was a murder, or I should say that someone was stabbed and then they were mismanaged at the hospital and died. And it was a huge, I think, shock to the United States, to the citizens of the U.S. were largely unaware of such depth of frustration, racial tensions and frustration. So I think that the questions of equity and equality started to really be brought into light for the larger public to digest and consider and respond to.
Now, you reside in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Were you in Brooklyn at that time?
I was not in Brooklyn at that time, but I have spent a lot of time in Brooklyn over the last several months. Brooklyn, not just Brooklyn, Crown Heights, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I live in Bedford-Stuyvesant, which is the neighborhood right next door. They're huge neighborhoods, but they're right next door to each other. And so, I spent a lot of time walking the streets, talking to people there, on both sides of the aisle, if you will. And it was really, it just felt so lucky to be able to literally walk the streets walk the corners where these events happened.
Where this happened, yeah.
Because it also happened at a time where there wasn't, we didn't have phones. So now an event happens, you can see so many different points of view of the thing. And at the time, people were less aware of how powerful and also at times biased the media could be. I say at times to be fair. I was really young at the time, so I wasn't paying such close attention. It was on my radar, but very peripherally. And a lot of the media, people complained that the media was sort of one-sided when they described what was going on there. So a lot of what's online, and you can do many deep dives on this, there's not a lot of video. There's not a lot of objective reporting. So being able to be on the streets, touch the buildings, talk to the people who've been there, who remember it, that was really fantastic and lucky.
Yeah. Thinking about the timeline, this was August of 1991.
Yeah.
And in March of 1991, Rodney King was severely beaten in L.A.
I know it was happening at the same time. For some reason, I thought it happened after.
As soon as you were talking,
Was
I
it
was
March?
like, wait a minute. Yeah.
Wow.
I believe like a quick search says March 3rd, 1991.
Wow.
Yeah. And so the reason I brought that up is because it always seems like there's a series of unfortunate events that happen that sort of remind us of this perception of police bias.
Yeah.
And just for that to say, like, that was going on the West Coast, this is going on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And just for context and to set the scene in the time frame.
I know that Anna Deavere Smith was actually researching both of these projects at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
They were overlapping. So, yeah.
And so the way this story is told, the way it unfolds, is through the voices of 26 people.
Yeah.
Of which you play all 26 people.
Yes.
If anyone has seen Anna Deavere Smith's work, it's always a Herculean effort. I think the piece that I experienced was Let Me Down Easy, which was at Philadelphia Theater Company.
Okay.
I forget the year. I'll have to put it in the notes, but it was, I remember that, and all the many characters just easily. How do you transition into these characters? Is it a beat that you take, or, do you develop a sensibility of who they are?
Through rehearsal, definitely that's the most important thing, is each person has to really, I mean, Anna Deavere Smith talks about her style of theater, and in many ways it's almost Brechtian, where, not to sound like, Brecht had a style, if you don't know. The idea was to make you feel as though you were always watching something. You never fell into the story and were swept away by it. You always watched it in sort of a critical way. And so he would write in a way that would abruptly break the audience member away from that lull. And in this way, when you have one person who's playing all these different characters, they can't disappear into them. And I think that's so for me, the main thing is, this is just technically for me, to try to embody these characters as much as possible by being as sort of in them. Each character I try to be as sort of like unobjectively for that character. Each time you're in a character, you're speaking for them. And then there's an awareness that you cannot be them, right? Because you're yourself. And so as far as the transition goes, once you're comfortable with each one, then the real key is rehearsing those shifts. Rehearsing those shifts. It's a vocal posture inside. It might be a physical posture. Of course, there's maybe small items of garment change or prop change that help. And it's rehearsing those transitions to make them as stark as possible.
With all these characters, all these moments, is there a particular part of the piece that resonates more with you?
maybe one of the characters, Angela Davis, for me, from the beginning, she sort of stuck. Maybe it's because she and I are the most similar, just in the way appearance, or maybe also some of her diatribe might have been something I grew up hearing. You know, it sort of sits most easily into my upbringing. That might be why. Just like that character, and then there are so many other ones too. I mean, so many of them. You once you get to know what their argument is, why no one in the play speaks unless they have something really powerful to speak. These interviews she did so many interviews. The ones she chose are the people who have a real need to express, and that in and of itself is a really strong connection. So I'd say they all kind of hit in different ways. They all feel familiar in different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I always try to avoid the kind of questions they sort of ask when it's a solo piece. You know,
I don't know what those questions are.
I know. We're not even going to go through them.
Okay.
But it's like, how do you process all these roles? The reason I had asked about, all the people is because there is sort of a very subtle sort of transition in there. And so I just wanted to have a better understanding of that. It's always a thought that a solo piece is like, how are they going to engage me? And it's like, well, it was written as a solo piece. And so trust me, there's going to be enough in here. You're going to be tuned in.
Yeah. And I think also, I might think to myself, who's going to want to watch me for the whole time? There's an intermission. There's time for them to run out and leave. Why would they stay? But I think what I really trust is that the text is powerful. It's fun, and it's exciting. There's so much, since it's so many different people, there's so much that's fresh and new that you won't necessarily know about.
Yeah.
I also think something was personally exciting for me is, since it's from the 90s, I mean, I guess this play was produced in 92. There's so many references that I didn't know really anything about, like Clarence Thomas and Anita Hill. I went back and looked at that, and I said, "Oh my God, wait, that was Kavanaugh and Dr. Ford." That was
Ford,
there are all these, history does repeat itself, and it's uncanny to see that. And I think there's a lot there, and trust the script.
Yeah.
That's the main thing, is trust the script. And this is something that resonated so strongly with me back then, with so many people, that I have no doubt it's going to resonate with all the viewers.
This is another thing I think is so valuable about theater. Theater does the work to say, this is not new.
Yeah.
We're going to tell this story, but I'm going to show you how 20 years ago, this was the same story. And it's food for thought. It definitely just makes us think and see the world differently. It's just like, wait a minute, this has happened before. And how did we handle that? Very similar, especially those cases, with, and it's a conversation about power too.
Absolutely.
When all of this repeats, it's like, how are we not aware that the last time this happened, this was a terrible thing, and that we should have done something different?
Yeah.
And so why are we here having this conversation still?
Well, and it's so interesting because it really is, when something happens, let's say again, and you say, oh, this has already happened. When you look at the ways in which we responded, oftentimes you might say, oh, wow, we did respond in that way, and that's changed our society. And it's not the same society or the same climate or the same environment. So now maybe it's necessary to respond in a different way, or to try something different.
Absolutely. When I want to talk, can we talk a little bit about the production?
Yeah.
The team itself. Like when rehearsals moved in to include tech, what was that like? And talk about some of the elements that when it all came together, you're like, wow, this is very supportive of this story.
Yeah. Well, I have to say it's a new world, and a lot of it happens online, right?
Mhm.
So I've met some of a few, really just two of the design folks in
Mhm.
person. Otherwise, it's just been screens.
Yeah.
Well, we had I take it back. The first read through, there were several people there as well. But so I can talk more about the elements that they bring in. But
Mhm.
definitely when I started seeing the set, right? So there's now everything's mocked up, right?
Yeah.
And then I saw the actual set yesterday. It's nearly completed. It was very exciting.
Yeah.
It was very exciting, and it feels like there's the music that they're pulling for the show, and we have projections. Even when this show was produced, theater has jumped leaps and bounds forward technologically since 1992. So the projections they can do now are, it's the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
And that's incredible. That's incredible. So it really does elevate all these different production elements. They really lift up the script, and it's not just me doing, muscling something up. It really is a collective performance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very exciting because it that is what sparks the imagination. I'm sure for the viewer watching it, it's going to be really visually, attractive, exciting, beautiful. Yeah, inspiring.
So I know that this is everyone's production, but there is an element of this that is all in service of your performance. And how does that make you feel? That this entire team is supporting you being the ambassador of this storytelling effort?
Well, I try not to let that. I mean, there's no pressure, right? There's that, and I think, oh God, I can't let anyone down. But I know that I'm sort of I can't say it's just me. I mean, yes, I do have the biggest lift in front of everyone, but there's so much work and research, and I felt so supported that I can't take all the credit. I feel very blessed to have so many hands. I can only chalk it up to them believing in the script and the power and the message of what we're doing. I don't think of it in terms of like, it's all for me. No, I feel like it's all in service of the play.
Yeah.
It's all for the play. So I guess
Yeah. So would you say you feel the same as you feel, in other productions? Like this is a solo piece for you, but it has all the elements of every other production you've been part of.
Absolutely. I would say, there is something to being in a play and not having another actor there to vote for equity deputy, for example.
Yeah.
There's not that, but I feel very supported and very secure, and I don't feel alone up there. I don't feel, and maybe it's just because there are so many people that I'm playing.
Yeah.
But I feel very, very supported. And I'd say it feels very much like, obviously a one-woman show. When I say it and people's reaction, that's definitely, oh my God, wow. There's a gamut of reactions. But it does feel, it's very, other than that, it's really the same as being in a play with others.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me.
So what, in your opinion, what do you think might latch on to the audience as they leave the theater and they head home, after experiencing this piece?
I think, I don't know. I feel like there's something in there that's the honest answer, is I don't know. I think there's something in the play for everyone. But I hope what does resonate or stay with them is the power of the community, the collection of voices, right? I think that is where, our salvation is. It's where our future has to lie. We need each other in all of our differences, and even in all of our differences of relating to each other. Some people need more space than others, if you will.
Mhm.
And allowing differences is really important. And I think allowing for flexibility, equity and equality are two things, and maybe they're both important. Maybe we need to swing back and forth between the two. I don't know, but I think hopefully people will take away how important diversity is for survival, for optimal survival.
Yeah,
And that's true in the investing world.
Yeah,
that's true in like the nutritional world. That's true everywhere. Diversity is really what makes the hardiest of organisms.
and especially in this moment when, the conversations that came about after the inauguration, aim to, are a threat to those values.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. So hopefully theaters will hopefully find people just literally reset, find that truth meter that will lead us all back to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and just for a little fun,
Yeah.
just looking at your bio, it's like you can look at this and say, do you live in New York? Because
all of my credits are New York credits.
Yes.
True.
There was always a thing. It's like everybody has a Law and Order in New York.
Yes. It's a badge of honor.
It's just one of those things that you will get a Law and Order credit.
The stamp of approval.
Yeah. Just for fun, as people get to know you through this conversation and beyond, what was it like to be a part of Pose and Equalizer? We'll talk about Pose.
Oh my gosh. Well, Pose is something that is in particular, I'm very proud of getting to be a part of that project and that production. It feels like something of its own little Easter egg in the world. There's nothing like that. There should be more, but maybe not. I mean, I don't know. It was so sort of perfect. I love that they didn't do, never-ending seasons.
Didn't
it's
take
3
it too
seasons.
far, yeah.
That's it. And it speaks so eloquently to a time and a place and a collective. And I just love that. And that scene that I had was so wonderful with the entire cast. And we were just a mess. We were a mess through the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was really wonderful working with those actors.
It was beautiful.
Definitely
that was must-see TV. We were running home every Sunday to tune in. And I think I remember, I believe it, I don't know if it premiered or a season premiered on a Pride Day. And it was like a Pride Sunday. And I remember, we were at Pride events during the day and then came home to live, work.
Yes.
It's
so
still,
good.
and I love that many of those actors are still very much, making themselves known in other projects and stuff.
Absolutely.
It's great.
Absolutely. It was a real blessing.
Yeah. So the other one was Equalizer.
Yes. The Equalizer. Well, that was also a tremendous day. Queen Latifah is like,
yeah,
I have a special place in my heart for that woman. She's such an icon. She's so incredible.
And she's a Jersey girl.
And she's a Jersey girl. And she's just wonderful. Her dad was on set. He leans over and he goes, "How's it feel to be part of the best? How's it feel to be part of the best television show on network TV?"
He's not wrong.
I was like, "Don't you ever stop rooting for your girl?
Yeah.
Don't do it, sir." It feels wonderful. Yeah, she was wonderful, and I actually had to during one of the breaks, they were changing the camera angle or something, and I told her a story of how I actually saw her perform in concert when I was a little kid. I was in Denver, Colorado, and I was probably 15 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I saw her perform live, and it was in a gymnasium where they'd like pushed bleachers sort of into the middle of the room so that we'd have or they brought the stage closer, like it was to cut the gym in half so that it would be more intimate and it wouldn't be this huge vacuous room. And I remember there was a fight things had to slow down. She had to stop the concert and be like, come on, y'all, calm down. We're not here for that. We're here for peace and love. She was like, Denver. She's like, that sounds about right.
Nice.
She's lovely.
I love that shit. I was making a comment. You know, I'm 44, right?
Okay.
And so I said, I kind of feel like you have to be a certain age to have a favorite show on CBS.
Well, man, The Equalizer scratches that itch.
Yes.
There's something about the formula that just satisfies. It is really, I feel like it, in some ways, it reminds me of the television shows that were on in the 90s.
Yeah. And it's just a wonderful team, like Lorraine Toussaint and Adam Goldberg. Like, they're just a hilarious bunch of people.
So good.
And I love that it's just this mix. Everything is serious, but they still have moments where it's real. It's just real. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of fun.
Oh, so good.
Well, there's many other credits in your CV that I think are just amazing. I could talk to you all day about that just in general, but we came here to talk about Fires in the Mirror, and I think we did it.
Yeah, I think we did it. I think we've covered it.
Absolutely. So
I have to give a shout out to two more Philadelphia theater makers, Akeem Davis and Whit McLaughlin. Two lovely people. Whit directed me in a production called Etched in Skin on a Sunlit Night. Yes. That was written by Carly Corthran, and we performed that at Interact.
Oh, cool.
And Akeem Davis was in the show with me. And nice. I see he's still doing his thing, so that's great.
Absolutely. I've interviewed Whit and Akeem before, and when I interviewed Akeem, I was like, if anybody asks you, you and I are best friends, right?
Yeah.
That is my best friend, Akeem.
I love it. I love it. He's great.
Such a great. Yes. So everyone, the production is Fire in the Mirror. It was conceived and written and originally performed by Anna Deavere Smith. It is directed by Amy Kaiser. It is starring Phyllis Johnson, who is here with us today. The production runs through February 23rd. So if you're listening to this now, you can get tickets, and I mean tickets plural, because theater is more fun with a +1.
Thank you so much, Darnell. Yes. I really appreciate it.
Phyllis, thank you. It's been a pleasure. It was just great to get to know you and to talk themes of this piece and then and talk around it too. I think that makes for a full conversation. I hope the listeners found value in this, and I hope you make your way to Bristol Riverside Theater to see Fires in the Mirror and their newly renovated performance space. It's going to be amazing. So go there, take pictures, post them online, tell everybody else they have to come see this wonderful performance in this wonderful space.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Phyllis. It was truly a pleasure. Really enjoyed this conversation.
Truly a pleasure, Darnell. Loved it.
Thank you to our guest, Phyllis Johnson, for joining us on today's podcast. The Broad Street Review podcast is an Emory production. If you would like to be a guest on the podcast, visit us online at em3ry.com. Get involved with Broad Street Review. Head on over to our website at www.broadstreetreview.com and click Get Involved at the top. While you're there, help keep us running and click Donate to find out how. There you can also find our social media links. Thank you for your part in keeping the conversation going.